Thank you all very much for attending this afternoon. It's nice to be here. I'm here to talk about graphite. Excuse me, you can see from that first slide. Disclaimer there to read at your leisure. Okay, let's start off here with what we've got, just a snapshot of the company. We've got a large graphite deposit in the Northern Territory. We believe it's working into being a Tier 1 project in a Tier 1 location in Australia. And you'll see as we go through the talk here, the locations of other graphite deposits. We've got a great one up here, right in the middle of Australia. Well, in the middle of the Northern Territory anyway. Investment sort of highlights there, we think. We own 100% of the project. We've got 20 kilometres of strike length of graphitic schist. We've only drilled 5 kilometres of that zone there, so there's a lot of upside there for some more drilling in the future. We've got good grades with the drilling to date. We finished our maiden drilling program last week. We've got some preliminary petrographic thin section analysis, which indicates we've got some good sized flake graphite there, which is amenable to making spherical graphite for electric vehicles. And some of you may have noticed in the last couple of weeks the announcement from China about introducing export controls on the 1st of December. So there is restrictions there potentially coming out of China in the future as well for graphite. And just a little corporate snapshot there. You can see we've got a EV of around $11.5–12 million there. So we think we're pretty undervalued given the potential of what we've got there. And I'm sure you'll agree with me when we go through the presentation and see those drill hits and look at the graphite market that there is a bit of upside there going forward. So just a bit of a talk about the market there. These slides aren't dissimilar to the ones we saw with the Patriot battery one a couple of presentations ago with the lithium. You know, it's all about the EV use in the future. Every car battery's got graphite in it. You can see that graph there on the left-hand side. There's the projected increase in EV battery use over the next 10 years is significant based on electric vehicle production. And the downside to that on the right-hand side is a lack of supply of graphite based on current production and current reserves. So there's a significant upgrade there required for graphite production in the world going forward just to meet that demand for electric vehicles in Europe, Asia, North America, China and those sort of places there. So I think the increased demand for China is sort of set in now. For graphite, is set in now. You can see EV sales are increasing around the world. And we feel that we're well positioned to take advantage of that going forward. Now what's in an EV battery, you can see there's about 50 kilograms or thereabouts in a typical battery in every single car that's produced. So I think it was Elon Musk said a couple of years ago that they should be called graphite batteries, not lithium-ion batteries, because every single battery has to have graphite in it. It's an essential part of the component to make up the battery. And you can see there that the first half of this year, more than 8% of new car sales in Australia were EVs. So that's just it's a small example of the increased demand for electric vehicles. That's only going to increase now. You can see that some major jurisdictions there, European Union, UK and China, are all looking at phasing out internal combustion engines over the next 12 years or so. So if you look at by 2035, the plan now is to have nearly every vehicle on the road will be an electric vehicle, and that'll require a lot more graphite, as you saw in that previous slide for the demand and supply characteristics. Now where does the graphite come from? You can see there on that graph on the or that table on the left-hand side, those elements in the red and the pink block there are critical elements there. You can see that most of those are required for electric vehicles, for batteries and the like. If you look at the graphic there on the right-hand side, I've circled in green there the production of Australia. So you can see Australia is a significant, if not major, producer of most of the components that go into a car battery or an EV battery. Lithium, copper, cobalt, nickel, the like. There's a big red circle there on graphite. Australia does not currently have any commercial graphite production, so it's the one gap in localised production in a car electric vehicle is graphite. So where does the graphite come from? You can see there that slide, or that table on the left, which came out last week from Benchmark Mineral Intelligence. You can see that China currently produces around 70% of raw flake graphite. They produce that, they import some and they convert that into spherical graphite, which is a precursor for battery use. And you can see that little middle red dot there on the left-hand side. They currently produce 99% of the world's spherical graphite. So it's essentially a monopoly on the inputs into car batteries there coming out of China. And the one at the bottom there is the final input, which is your purified coated spherical graphite, which is what goes into the battery. Again, China produces around 80% of that, and Japan and Korea make up the rest. So it's a very concentrated market, and it's obviously dominated by China. And that's all the more, the Chinese export controls on the 1st of December obviously place a lot more pressure on the need to diversify away from a single market for this particular commodity. So how does Kingsland fit into that with what we've got? We're located about 2 hours drive south of Darwin, near the Pine Creek area. And Pine Creek's, you may have heard of that, it's a significant gold mining area in the past. It's had a lot of mining history over the last 130 odd years, so they're used to exploration and mining in that area. The infrastructure there is fantastic. We're very close to the main north-south infrastructure corridor going into Darwin, so we're close to high voltage power lines, railway lines, sealed highways, service centres at Katherine to the south and Darwin to the north. It's on a perpetual pastoral lease there. There's currently no native title claim over that, so it's a good place to do business. Now what we've got there, you can see that map there with the geology there. It's carbonaceous shales which have been intruded with granites, and that the heat and pressure from the granite has converted the carbon into graphite. So there's a nice long contact zone there of around 20 kilometres of this graphitic schist. And it varies in width from maybe 50 to 150 metres, so averaging around 100 metres thick along that contact zone. And that little black circle there at the bottom, or that black oval, that's where we've been drilling this year. And so far this year we've drilled 53 RC holes and 11 core holes for around 8,000 metres, and we finished that last week. And there's some of the outstanding results we've received so far. We've got most of the drilling results are in now. There's a few more to come back. And those hits there are some of the best ones you'll find anywhere in the world this year, if not historically. There's significant widths there with significant grades, and we've got a lot of those hits right along the strike length of that 5 kilometre drilling area, which I'll show you next. And that photograph on the right-hand side there of the drill core, it's consistent high grades. It's very, very consistent right down the hole. So for instance, that hole 5 there, which is illustrated, that's the top one there, 206 metres at 10%. It's at 10% all the way down the hole. It's very, very consistent, which is great. And there's just some of those high-grade hits there on the plan view there. Of interest there is the scale bar there at 1 kilometre. You can see those black squares are half a kilometre squares. So you can see that length there is around 5 or 6 kilometres long. So it's a fair bit of scale there, and you've got those significant 100 metre plus hits right along that strike length there. So, like I said, we've finished our first phase of drilling, and we're going into resource estimation at the moment. Excuse me. And we're looking at having a resource out sometime earlier next year. I've got 4 sections coming up next. You can see where those 4 sections are located there on the yellow lines there. Between section 1 and section 4 covers about 1.5 kilometres. So just, you have to think of the scale when you're looking at this, that the tonnage potential here is quite significant when you look at the width and the depth and also the strike length on this. So again, section 1 there, you can see we've got these high-grade holes there, outcropping on surface there. It's relatively simple geology. It's around 100 metres to 150 metres true width on the surface there, outcropping with good grades there on the surface as well. The next slide there, it's fairly consistent. I don't want to bore you with too many of these sections there, but the detail's quite exciting, and it's just the width and the grade. Again, you can see there outcropping on surface with high grades there. Next one's the same there. That's been our biggest intersection to date as far as width goes, 285 metres at 6.1. We've interpreted the contact being just at the end of that hole, but the hole did end in high-grade mineralisation at 10%, so it might be a bit wider than that. And the next one there is 2 of our other good holes there. Again, the consistent high-grade nature, outcropping on surface. So it augurs well for any potential development as far as open pit mining goes. When you've got an ore body 150 odd metres wide, outcropping at surface, being sub-vertical like that, you can see that the strip ratio is going to be very low, or it'll be just about 0 for a stage 1 pit. We've done a fair bit of microscope photography work. There's a picture there on the right-hand side there of one of the holes there, just to show the flake graphite. Like I suggested at the start of the presentation, our average size is around maybe that 80 micron mark, around there. There's still more test work to do. This isn't a coarse or jumbo flake deposit. That's what people look for industrial usage. For the battery use, the fine graphites are preferred, because the process for making the final product, you have to micronise it, like make it smaller, and then roll it into small spheres of around 15 microns in diameter. So if you start with a larger product, you have to break it down to that smaller size. So it obviously makes more economic sense to start with a smaller product and work from there. So we think we've got a good size start there with the flake on the petrographic work. We're doing more work now on the metallurgy. We submitted samples, excuse me, about 6 weeks ago. They're being tested now in Perth, and that should be finished sometime in the first quarter next year, around March. So just a bit of a highlight there. And you see that photograph there of the outcropping schist there. That's all black graphitic schist there, averaging around 10% on the surface there. So we've got, we've defined a nice wide, high-grade graphitic schist unit on our tenement there. We've got 20 kilometres of strike length based on aeromagnetics and also just field reconnaissance work. We've only drilled 5 kilometres of that. We've had significant high-grade hits along there. Outcrops at surface, simple geology, open at depth with a good sized flake for our end use for battery anode material. So just what we've done and what we're going to be doing going forward. We've finished our first drilling phase. We've collected samples for initial metallurgy, as I just said. That's being done now for flotation characteristics to work out the flotation recovery and also the grade of the final concentrate. We've also done the thin section work there just to see if there's any significant distribution or change in distribution of the flake size throughout the deposit. So far it looks like it's fairly consistent around that sort of 80 to 90 average micron flake size there. Going forward, we have started work on the mineral resource. It'll be an inferred mineral resource, which will be completed in the first 3 months of next year, the first quarter, the March quarter. Infill drilling after that to upgrade the inferred resource to indicated, and that will also give us some more samples for metallurgical test work. And that last step there is that advanced metallurgical test work. We'll get an idea of the flotation characteristics from the current batch, and then we'll go forward from there and get some more concentrate and try and work on the conversion of that into spherical graphite for our battery end use. So that'll be a fairly busy year next year, we think, with drilling and metallurgical test work. It's very early days of what we've got. We think we've got a good sized resource. The initial metallurgy and petrographic analysis is very positive. So I think going forward, we will well and truly get that Tier 1 prospect in that Tier 1 location. So I encourage you to look at Kingsland over the next 3 or 4 months for these releases with the resource and the metallurgy. And I think given our current valuation of around $11.5 million enterprise value, I think you'll agree there's significant upside there based on the fundamentals of the graphite market going forward as well. So thank you very much for listening. We've got a booth next door as well, so any questions, please come in and ask me or Bruno Sinek, the CFO, and we'll be pleased to answer them. So thank you very much.